Hi guys, my laptop just decided to set it run into the device, so it's resetting itself. So I said I'd do this on the phone. Hope I sound okay. So we had one question. I don't know if it was from you, Thomas. Was it about the um like going on paces or heart rates? Which one would I recommend? And yeah, and why? So I'm just gonna try to answer that as the main question. Okay, so I would always recommend going on heart rates, or with that, then effort also over paces. Now, there is a couple of times where we will work on paces over heart rate, and I'll talk about when those times are um, in particular. But okay, so first, let's establish then why we're going to go on heart rates mainly. Was that your question, Thomas? Sorry, I just see here. You're muted. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Hopefully you can hear me here. I can move on to I can move on to do you want? I'm going to change out these and move on to my Okay, I've just moved to my headphones here, so hopefully you can hear. I can't mic not work. You can hear me fine. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. So perfect. All right. So if you want to even put it in the chat if you have any stuff. So where do we get heart why do we go on heart rate over paces? The main reason, right, is um, because paces are generally decided. There's a good few reasons, right? The first is paces, firstly, do not account for variability in how you're feeling. Okay, so we're never really constant beings, are we? Like we can be fitter, we can be feeling fresher, we can be feeling worse, we can be have a little bit of an illness that's not stopping us, but just not feeling great. Conditions can be completely different. So if you have a pace in mind, say you run 4 minute Ks for your threshold. So rather than go on heart rate, you go on, I run 4 minute Ks, that's my threshold. I base that off like a 10K time or a 5K time I did, or even a half marathon. And threshold is kind of what could I hold for a half an hour, an hour. So I based off my like my hour, my hour, my 10 mile time was 60 minutes. So and I did 6 minute miles, 4 minute Ks. So yeah, that's what I run my threshold at. Okay. And like even like say like last week I was running 4 minute Ks and I felt good. But what if you have like a very heavy wind against you now this week? Say it's really windy, or you're on a hill. You're still like kind of you're still kind of married to this 4 minute mile pace dependent, or maybe you're like you just had a hectic week, or just nothing, you just have like a little bit of an infection, or you've had like 2 or 3 hard weeks and you just have cumulative fatigue. So one of the main reasons we don't want to go on pace is it doesn't allow for any variability that we're going to have in our week. Oh, hey James. So where if we go on heart rate, so say for example, you have your threshold pace, you did a lactic threshold test, and it told you at like your threshold zone, which say it's that 6 minute miles, 4 minute Ks, and when you did the test, 6 minute mile, 4 minute Ks, that heart rate was like 175, just for example. When now we're doing say 4 by 6 minutes at that threshold pace, like the first one, we'll just let the heart rate drift up. So I might start at 4 minute pace, 4 minute K pace, because that's roughly what I'm at. So like pace that way is really, really good to have. Let me just try and mute here. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Okay. Sorry, I not usually use my phone for this thing. So yeah, if you use pace for the first rep. But what you're going to see is, say if you're feeling good, you might be on 4 minute Ks and actually you're not hitting 175. You're hitting like 168. Um, I'm going to have to try and mute you, James. How the hell do I do that? I'll just mute myself. Now I have it. Okay. So, yeah, you might on your second rep, we wouldn't expect you to be on your like your heart rate off a first rep. I'd say by the second rep, you could be like, well, look, my heart rate's down. Um, I could pick it up. So maybe I'm going to run like 355 per K because I'm feeling good. Or conversely, it's windy. I'm not feeling as good. I've gone out at 4 minute Ks. And then on the second one, the heart rate has now gone up to 178 rather than 175. Well, now I slow down to like 405. But because I've gone on my heart rate, I'm at threshold effort internally. It feels like 8 out of 10 effort, and the heart rate confirms that. And even though I'm a little bit slower, it's actually like way more appropriate than 1 week me running 7 out of 10 and 170 heart rate, and another week then me running over harder than I should be because um, I'm trying to always hit this 4 minute K pace. So that's the first thing. If you go on heart rate, it adapts because it's an internal measure. It's like it's something that's going on in you. It adapts to variations that you could have. Like, are you feeling fresh? Are you tired? Is there sickness? Is whatever. And because you're getting the actual effort, like the aerobic effort that you're looking for, even though if the pace is faster or slower, it doesn't really mind. What you want to see is that it's trending in the general direction. So say, take me, for example. I'm getting into like relatively good shape now. Um, and that's just come over the last few weeks. Now, like, but 1 week, like my threshold, I do it in miles because we didn't have we didn't have the Garmin's, so we just I don't know, it was easier to do it in miles. Where anyone who started on Garmin's used to go on K's. But my I got my threshold pace below uh 5 minute 10 pace. For me, it's like that's really good. But like the next session, my threshold pace was maybe 5:13, 5:14. So it's like 5 seconds slower. But say 2, 3 months ago, that pace was like 5:25. So I've come down, even the slower pace is say 10 seconds quicker than how what it was, say 2, 3 months ago, because everything's clicking, things are getting, we're kind of starting to peak for races now. Um, yeah, so it's like I'm not looking for every session to be a certain pace. I'm just wanting it to trend in that general good direction. And if it's trending in that general direction, I'm happy then. Um, yeah, so like session to session, it can vary, and it's literally varying for me. It's trending faster, so I'm doing faster times the whole time, but not like today is faster than tomorrow. I mean, like this week is a little bit faster than 4 or 5 weeks ago. Last week, the heart rate might have been up on slower paces, but in general, I'm just trending in that direction. So it's like it allows me not to overtrain because again, I might have had a harder session, say this week rather than last week, and I could have come in fresher to the threshold session I was doing. So I hope that clears up why we're going to use it. It just allows for variation. It allows for adjusting to how you're feeling, and it's very difficult for runners to do that normally. Okay, if you have 4 minutes in your head, even if I tell you to go 4:05 because I just think you're tired or whatever, or you're like it's not working, you're going to go home thinking, oh, was I a little bit like mentally weak there today, or yeah, did I could have like tried harder, or you have all these things. Whereas like when I'm on my heart rate, it's like, well, the heart rate, I got my heart rate to what I was supposed to get my heart rate to. The fact that it was slow, it's like, well, that has nothing to do with me. I just have to get the heart. I don't really even look at it. I look at the times I look at the times at the start just to make sure I'm not like massively out. Like I'm not going to go if it's 4 minute Ks that my threshold is generally. I'm not going to start the first one at 340 or I'm not going to start it at 420. I might start it and be kind of faster or slower depending on how it's feeling, and then it just adjust up or down accordingly. You're not going to be there's not going to be mental swings in that. Um, the second the second reason why I like to go with heart rates rather than paces is because the paces are generally decided off races, um, whereas the heart rate is again an internal measure, so it doesn't really matter. So what I mean by that is, let's take that 4 minute per K time again. And we say a person did a 10-mile race, so that's 6 minutes per mile. So there's doing 6 minutes for a mile. If we take that, okay, say as their threshold pace, for example, the day they did that, if it was their main race, or say you do marathon pace rather than zone three, the day you ran a marathon, you were like probably tapering for like 2 weeks. You did it in the Dublin Marathon, and there's like it was a lovely day, and you had the wind kind of was mostly on your back, and you had a crowd cheering you along for like the whole 26 miles. You got the adrenaline pumping. You might like, I know for me, like I only take caffeine for races. I take that uh sodium bicarbonate for races. Like I never take any of that for training. Um, most people are wearing their carbon fiber shoes now for training, but maybe even that, maybe you have like the running shoes that you wear they have a carbon plate in them for the race, and you don't have that for training. Like these are massive deciding factors or confounding factors they're called, like factors deciding or helping to run that particular pace. So so now you go and so the day you ran that, you were up the night before, you've tapered, you ate really well, you prepped, you got down there, you warmed up. Now we're trying to go on Tuesday morning, we're going out before work. Maybe we've eaten something, maybe we just had a little gel or what, and we're going at marathon pace. And what's marathon pace? Marathon pace is the day I ran my best ever marathon. Am I in my best ever marathon shape right now when I'm 16 weeks out from a marathon and only starting back? Or when even I'm like 10 weeks out and I'm like right in a heavy block? I've done like the longest long run I've done in a good while. I did a hard session in the midweek, and now I'm going to be doing another hard session on Saturday. So where are you getting the paces? So when people look at like pace versus heart rate, they generally take the paces from the paces they have run in races. But then when they're using that in training, don't account for, are they actually one, in that shape? And two, if they were in that shape, would they run it in these conditions? So the first is, are you actually in that shape? It's like you ran that PB maybe like last year, maybe 2 years ago, maybe even like 6 months ago, but like you took a break after that and then you're building back in. So like I've ran like in the 1350s for 5K. I always say this, like if I'm doing 5K paced work, you gotta accept where you are, not where you hope you would be. So I would do it in like 1420 shape right now. And I'm actually a lot, I'm fat. Like that's better because I'm feeling fit now. Like realistically, only ran like, it was in April, but I ran 1435. Like there's a good argument that I should only run a 1435 pace until I run 1420. And my old coach would have been like that. He would have said, no, until you run it, just run at the old pace because it's probably better to be a little bit conservative in training. Again, you were well warmed up for that race. You had all those conditions. So if we just take that, if you're running 1435 pace, um, is probably working out like 14, 20 pace in a race. Okay, so first thing is like you mightn't actually be in the shape that you're judging your paces off. The second reason I was alluding to it there is even if you were in that shape, like say if I said, right, bang, you're back exactly in that Dublin Marathon or the day you ran your 5K PB, you're in that shape or your 10K PB. If I got, there's a difference between like, say, going down into Kilkenny, again, good crowd around, couple of guys like running against other guys to push you on the whole way, versus me getting up on Tuesday morning, as I said, not much like water or food in me, still stiff, but I have to get this session done because I'm working all day. Like, if I got up in those conditions, even if I went down to the exact course and just set my watch and tried run as hard as I could for 5K, I'd probably be like, no joke, I could be a minute slower. Like, no joke, a minute slower. So if you are doing paces, then you have to take that into account as well. That like you have to be more honest about what shape are you currently in versus the paces that you're choosing to use. So if you're doing, say, half marathon, marathon pace as temp threshold or kind of aerobic threshold, lactic threshold and aerobic threshold pace, or even if you're doing like 10K stuff, um, what like readjust those not to your PBs, not to your personal records or your personal best, but to what you think you would run right now. And then secondly, adjust those paces to um, the conditions that the day allows you to. So even if you're in that, so say for example, then it's a bit more complex because you have to go, okay, I'm doing say I don't use threshold for my, so we use like zone four to lactic threshold. Zone three would be marathon pace essentially. It's called aerobic threshold or sometimes called intensive aerobic. But so if you say you're doing zone three work, like that aerobic threshold work, um, but you're doing the paces. If I'm doing it off heart rate, it's easy enough for me to judge that because there's a line, right, which I love. It's like it never gets easy, it never gets easier, you just get faster. Meaning, the day you ran your PB, it probably felt 10 out of 10 hard, and your heart rate would probably be close to whatever your max is. If you were unfit and you ran the same race, your pace would be a lot slower, but it would feel 10 out of 10 effort, and your heart rate, you're probably at close to your max heart rate, which would be the same number. And then if you got super fit down the line, say 6 months later, you run another PB, say you take another 5 minutes off your time. So you're 5 minutes faster, but the effort would probably feel 10 out of 10 hard, and then your heart rate would be close to max. So, and that would be the same number. So the internal measures of your rate of perceived exertion, how hard you find things, and your max heart rates or your zones will always roughly be the same. And what happens is you can run faster at those zones. So, um, yeah. So with that in mind, if you're doing, so when you go out at like, say your aerobic threshold is 165 beats, your marathon pace is 165 beats. You just know, let the first one go, like do it off the pace or whatever paces you normally do it, and then just go up or down on the pace depending on how the heart rates are looking. Okay, if it's if you're at 168, 169, you have to slow down. If you're at 160 or 158, you got to speed up. And then in that way you balance out, like you're running at that appropriate level for you. Where if you use paces, let's say it's 4:30 a mile for, let's say it's 5 minute miling for 5 minute per K for your marathon pace. Okay, you ran 5 minutes per K when it was a really good conditions and it was really good marathon, you're well tapered. So you wouldn't run 5 minutes per K for an actual marathon if you were honest with yourself. So now you have to say, well, what would I run? Maybe I'll run 5 minute 30s per K. First off, that's just a guess. Like guess for me, guess for you. Then you have to think about the conditions. Well, maybe it's like super windy today and it's like I've been tired. So do you give yourself what, an extra 15 seconds? So now it's 5:45? Or like even better is where the person's never run these times and they're like, I just like to run this for a marathon. And it's like, again, you got to start where you are, not where you'd hope to be. Like you like the this is another, sorry, you don't want to get going on this. Like it's an aerobic event. Like you got to run, usually you're about 2.2 millimoles of lactic. You don't even need to know what that is, but it means that like there's a certain effort level, like physiologically, like where your heart's going to go, where your muscles are going to go, etc. So you just wanting to run, like you wanting to run, say 4 minutes per K or 5 minutes per K for a marathon has actually no bearing on like what you're actually going to run. And you running at 4 minutes a K for like shorter reps, say you do it for like mile reps, you're not really training, like, and it's a good thing to do at times, but you're not training the system. You're not training specifically the marathon system. You could be training way above that system, if that makes sense. So trying to like stick them together is not going to actually work. And then you haven't practiced the pace that you're actually going to run ever. So most likely what's going to happen to that person is they'll go out at the 5 minute per K pace. They won't have a break like they're probably taking in training, or it's a lot longer than they'd normally do. And they'll just like blow up in the middle. Yeah, they'll probably just blow up in the middle and then go a lot slower at the end. Versus that person would have been better if it's say on the heart rate, running at 5 minute 20 per Ks, building as they get fitter, that time will come back down. So now maybe they're by the end their AT pace is at 5 minutes per K. Um, Now the heart rate in a marathon is not. I wouldn't judge off a heart rate in a marathon because it's going to be 5 minute per K. The heart rate's going to be lower than that. Hit it in the middle, and then at the end you're going to be way above that heart rate. That's fine, but to train that system, we want to get like into that kind of appropriate zone. Um, yeah, okay. So because again, say you're doing 10-minute efforts at 165. Well, in the break, you'll be running faster than marathon pace there because you're you're getting a break like every say 10 minutes for maybe 2 minutes. So that allows the heart rate to go back down, which allows you to go faster in those times. Um, yeah, so hopefully that this is a good question. It's the main one I'm just answering today is, do you go off pace or heart rate? So hopefully for those two reasons you go off a heart rate. Hopefully that makes sense. The first is, as you said, it allows for day-to-day variations or yeah, variations that can just occur in the day. Like when it's really windy, when the conditions are different, maybe it's the time of the day you're going in. And then the second thing is it allows for um changes in you. When you use pace, you're normally taken on your most ideal day that you've run in the past or an ideal time that you want to run in the future. Neither of them are realistic to the actual shape that you're in today. Whereas using heart rate takes exactly where you are today. It will run it where into the zone that you want to run. You're not running too hard or too easy. And then third, mentally, it's very hard to run slower off pace. You'll always feel like, oh, I could have, because you can, especially for threshold stuff, you can definitely go faster. But just because you can go faster doesn't mean you should. Yeah, definitely. Base it off effort, and I got a heart rate. I get a heart rate. I get a lactic test done. They're about 100. They've nearly gone to 150, like everyone else. Um, it's going up. But if you had the test of a lactic test one time, James, not James Thomas, you'd have your results forevermore because your heart rates roughly stay the same. I always say this. Did my first test at 18. I'm now 40, and my heart rate has gone down maybe like 3 or 4 beats. Like if I never got another test after 18, I'd still roughly have my zones that were they'd be 2 or 3 beats out. Like they wouldn't be they're not I'm not talking like 10 beats out here. Like, I'd still roughly be okay. Um yeah, definitely. And then okay, so when do we use pace or effort? I still kind of use effort. When do we not use heart rate basically? I will use effort or pace when the reps are shorter. If the reps are shorter than 3 minutes, especially if you're doing like zone five work. If you're doing stuff like 10K effort, judge that off heart rate effort or go to a track and do it off your heart rate pace. So like if we're doing the pace, then I wanted like accurate. So one, it's like, for example, if we're doing a session, sorry, I got a leather chair there. That's um if we're doing like say a cut down session. So say we're doing 12 minutes at zone three. I will definitely do the zone three at heart rate. I'll be at the low end of zone three first, and I'll just gradually the pace will stay the same, and the heart rate will just gradually go up, and I'll make sure I don't go above zone three heart rate. So if I have to slow down in the middle, or if it's staying really low, I could probably pick it up. I'll take a 2 minute recovery, and then I'll do like 7 minutes at zone four. Again, starting at like low end of zone four, zone three, building up, and then I won't go above zone three or zone four at the end. Okay, so I'll slow down if I have to. Now, after that, we're doing zone five, which is kind of more 10K VO2 max kind of work. And we might do like 1 minute on, 1 minute hard at zone five pace, 1 minute just easy jog. You can't use heart rate for that. One, the time isn't long enough for you to get into a constant zone. So even though it's zone five because you're running faster, your heart rate's actually going to be probably at zone three because you're getting a break after every minute. Now it'll feel harder than zone three because you're running hard every second minute. So you got to switch to effort. And I've had people say before, and it's probably my fault, where they're like, "Oh, I couldn't get my heart rate to zone five." Like they're actually sprinting as hard as they can. And if you have a minute anything under 3 minutes, the heart rate's going to be useless. It's not going to have enough time to build up to the actual pace, especially if it's like a minute on, minute off. So any kind of minutes on, minutes off kind of stuff, even 2 minutes on, 2 minute efforts, they should just be done on effort. They should be done on feel. If you were pedantic, you can do that type of stuff. You can go, look, I'm just going to do it at 10K pace. And look, I have been known to do that. I can go to a track. Um, One of the sessions I actually really enjoy is 2 miles at like either zone three or zone four, and then 2 miles basically. So like 8 by 400 meters at a 10K pace off say 45 seconds. So, and I'll hit them at like 73 seconds, 72 if I'm feeling, I hit it at roughly what, if I'm getting ready for a 10K, I will try hit them at the time I want to run. Uh, if I'm not, if it's more general, I'll hit them at roughly what pace I think I'm in 10K shape. So when I broke 30 minutes for 10K, I was hitting them in 72s. Early on in the year, I was hitting them more in like 74s, like so, but 45 seconds off. Or I can do a float recovery. I was actually even doing a good session today, 16 by 400. I was doing them with a bunch of guys. So they were hitting them like, they started at 75s, they moved down to 72s. Started at 77s, actually, moved down to 72s. I was float recovering. So as soon as we went over, I would do down to the end and back up in a minute to keep that like some steady jogging in between to keep my heart rate relatively high, then hit something hard and then float the 200. I would jog the minute like at 50% effort basically. Yeah. So when the reps get below 3 minutes, get off heart rate because you're getting too much recovery to it. And then secondly, when you want to practice the pace, so that session, like I said, like the 2 miles, 8 400s, or then we might go it could be like 12 400s. Sorry, 12 400s. Then it might be 10 500s. Then it could be as a second session, like then it could be 8 600s or 10 600s, 8 800s would be an example. Um, or even 5 800s, whichever way you want to do it. And then generally I was trying to like go for like 2 miles worth of work there. So 2 miles warm up, 2 miles threshold, 2 miles worth of like so 3,000 meters of um roughly like 3,200 sometimes of kind of specific 10K work, 2 miles then of threshold at the end, and maybe a mile threshold mile. The other time I'm doing pace is when I'm starting to dial in properly for a race. So when I want to get used to running the paces, especially if you're doing track work, this is for most of you guys. I'm not trying to be disparaging, like because I do it myself when I'm going road. Now I do like doing that session on the track, even when I'm doing road races. You don't need to get so super specific because in road races the pace goes up and down anyway. You might start on a hill and it gets out quite slow, and then it gets rolling in the middle really fast, and then it might just like we try hold that pace to the end. And another race might like start off really fast and then in the middle slow down, and then there's a big burn up at the end. Other races are kind of slow to start with and then slow, 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 and then absolutely carnage at the end. So with road races, it's not as important. With track races, every 400 meters is exactly on the time. So when I was breaking, say any distance I've done, like the 4 minute mile, 14, whatever, um, like say 14, it's like 67. So run 67, 67, 60. You're running 67 every lap. And I was talking to Cormac Dalton about this. He's won the national cross country championships. He's actually really good on the cross country and road because he likes the up and down. And he's still really good, but he's not as good, or he was struggling a little bit with track because of the absolute constant, like this exact pace the whole time. So if you're doing that, say I know James does like masters running on the track, 3 to 6 weeks before James is getting ready to do races, he should be going on the track and running like specific times that he wants to run to get comfortable at running those times. And I said, or when you're doing, and I think you should do short reps. They're really important. They improve your running economy. They improve the speed. If you're just doing aerobic stuff the whole time, you hit a race, a 5K, you feel like you're absolutely sprinting. Where if you've practiced the paces of stuff, you don't. So when the shorter reps are in, uh, switch back to paces, switch back to effort. If you don't have a track, don't worry. Just do it at like what feels like 10K pace. Um, if you're getting ready, especially like 6 weeks out to 3 weeks out, start introducing in those speed work. You can go down to a track. You'll feel it'll be the thing about the track will be is that you'll be gobsmacked how easy it feels. When you're on a thing, you tend to run faster. It feels harder than it actually is. So yeah, so I would do heart rate definitely for any like threshold work, aerobic marathon work, half marathon work, and then where I would dial in pace stuff is or effort is when the reps get below 3 minutes, you want to go towards effort or pace. And when you're getting like 6 weeks out before a race, even a marathon, you might then go, okay, I want to actually specifically, I'm going to try run this. Like, say, yeah, about 6 weeks out, you think you might switch where you're going to start doing some stuff just to get used to the actual pace. In a marathon or a half marathon, that might look like doing an extended warm up and then hitting like miles at the exact time you're going to try hit with like float recovery of a mile. So say 6 miles of like mile at that pace, mile maybe like 30 seconds slower than that pace, mile at that pace, mile 30 seconds slower, mile at that pace, mile 30 seconds slower, mile. That'd be 7 miles of that. It'd be 4 miles at your actual pace, 3 miles kind of still hard, but like a little bit easier. It just gets you in the zone of like, all right, this is how it'll feel. Am I able to take a gel when I'm trying to do this? 10K, 5K, loads of specific work there. Just get to the track. Okay, good. good to clear that up. Hopefully, that makes sense for everyone. And I thought it was an excellent question. So, if there's any good questions like that again, please put them in because we can really kind of go deep on them. I'm just trying to just go deep on maybe one thing at a time. Okay. Do you have any questions on that, guys, or how you feeling? Let me see. That's great. Thanks a million, Thomas. Okay. See you guys. Take care.